Hello and welcome to Your Project Outsourced. In this series, I cover all the essential information about outsourcing your project to an external partner, like INVO, and key things you need to be aware of when you scale up your team this way. So before we begin, subscribe to our channel to never miss our episodes. Click here to visit our social media profiles like Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn for more tips and tricks. In today's episode, we're going to talk about handing over your project to a software house. There are a few key things you need to prepare before you start working with an external team. Preparing a brief will give you an advantage when it comes to saving time and money. Today I'm going to help you create an insightful brief for a software house. The brief should be divided into 4 categories: general overview, the market and the audience, product specification, and your resources. The first section of the brief should contain information about your business and the project itself. Let's start with your business goals first. Shortly describe your company, what it's all about, and what market you're operating on. This overview will help the software house understand your goals and how you're aiming to achieve them. A good software house not only has technical expertise, but also knows and understands the business side of projects. That's why it's crucial to present them with a comprehensive overview of your long and short-term goals. Now let's define your project scope. Are you looking to hire on-demand developers? Are you going to need a mobile app, maybe a web platform? Or maybe you just need a functional landing page to enhance your business look? Explain exactly what you need in the brief. If possible, provide examples of competitors' products as well as information about specific functionalities you need. Secondly, you need to specify what your project is aiming to do. Don't just describe it in a few words and write something like, "I need a mobile app for booking barber services." Even if you're working with a very experienced software agency, this will not be enough. So instead of being vague, summarize your vision in more detail. So staying with the same example, you can instead write, "I need a platform both for barbershops and their clients that will let the barbers manage the bookings, payments, announce available services, describe them, put available slots in the calendar and correspond with clients using internal messages." Clients will be able to pick the barbershop, see available services, pricing, description, photos, and book a service in the calendar, have the option to change the reservation, pay in the app, and write to the barbershop using inside messages. This way, it will be clearer to the agency's team what you want to create. The next thing every good brief needs to contain is the description of the target users of the product. The characteristics of the end user will have a huge impact on how your product will look. After all, your application must cater to your customers' needs, right? Well, this is where user experience design comes in. It's always good to have established user personas, not only for product development, but also for your marketing campaign. If you don't know how to create a user persona, you can check out our article on how to use the user persona canvas, which will be linked in the description box below. Don't forget that if you collect data about your current client's behavior, their characteristics, what motivates them and so on, include them in your brief for the software house. This data will come in pretty handy when it comes to creating a custom user experience. Next, you need to think about where your business operates and where the product will be distributed. Indicate this information, especially when you are aiming for outstanding UX UI design. Knowing the region will help understand your audience better and enable the software house to include any cultural references and insights. The next thing you need to include in your brief is information about your competition. Why would a software house be interested in competitors? Simply because it's an obvious thing that you want to be a key player on the market, so knowing your competitors' products helps the software house team define and emphasize things that will make you stand out. Okay, now that we have the basics out of the way, let's talk about some specifics regarding the project scope. This is essential information when it comes to outsourcing product development. Without it, it's very hard to estimate the time and cost of building your product. Many clients ask me during our first meeting how much the project will cost, even if I didn't have a chance to read the specification. It's as if somebody asked you how much a flat costs in a center of a big city. First thought, it depends. especially on the average costs per square meter in the area, the size of the flat, the condition, is it fully furnished or not, etc. So I could tell you, but the spread would be huge. Do you see where I'm going with this? The same thing goes for software development, and that's why it's so important you provide an as detailed as possible description of the project scope. There are many different ways to prepare the specification. The most common way is to just divide the product into sections, which are divided into different subsections, and so on. This way, you build a hierarchical structure of the work. Think of a tree that spreads its branches in the upper level. Try to structure your idea this way. Then add the requirements to each section as well as a description of them. The tool is not important, it might be a simple document or a spreadsheet or even a mind map. However, it is crucial to keep it clear, structured and specific. Another, and in my opinion the most fun way to prepare a specification, is to create a product mockup. A mockup is a visualization of the product's functionalities without any additional visuals like branding or images. For example, if you want to create a mobile app, your mockup might present different screens and explain with arrows or lines what happens when the user clicks a certain button. It doesn't have to be pretty, the important thing is the flow. However, remember to specify the required functionalities with a short description on each screen. A well-prepared and detailed specification helps the development team estimate the costs more accurately and start the process much faster. Okay, now we have most of the brief ready, but still there's a couple more things to specify, like raw resources which play a huge role in the project. So informing the project team about them seems to be the right choice, doesn't it? Based on your available resources, the software house team can plan the project accordingly. So include information about any of the work you've completed previously, who is on your in-house team and what are their responsibilities. Your brief should also include information about timelines. Ask yourself, do I have a specific release date of my product that cannot be exceeded? If the answer is yes, you need to include this information in the brief. Moreover, if there is a need to divide the project into phases related to your strategy, for instance, you only need a design first to acquire investors, you should also inform the team about it at the very beginning, as it will impact the planning phase and the time and cost estimate. Needless to say, the same thing goes for a budget. Of course, you'd like to know the price range at the beginning, but please note that providing information about your financial resources will help the software house team to create a tailored plan according to your budget. If the scope of the work exceeds the budget, your contractor will be able to adjust the approach, prioritize the work, and focus on the most important functionalities at first. In the brief, you should also indicate who's the product owner. A PO is a very crucial role in the development team. They define the vision and business objectives of the project, indicate the requirements, take part in creating and prioritizing tasks in the product backlog, as well as connect all the stakeholders with the development team. Do you have any other in-house teammates who will be involved in the development process? Or maybe some other agency or subcontractor? This kind of information needs to be included in every brief. The last thing, when it comes to your resources, is the project's current status. Is this some concept that is going to be developed from scratch? Or maybe you have done some work already? In this case, you should describe the existing components and the technology used to create them. If you don't have the expertise to describe it, you should hand the existing components to your software house team to examine them. It may cost you extra, but believe me, no agency would start a process without such information. Okay, you may think that this is a lot to ask at the beginning of cooperation. But here at INVO, these are the topics that eventually we're going to ask about. And believe me or not, every good software house would like to know these things too. Transparency is very crucial, especially at the beginning. A vague brief will eventually lead to frustration, misconception and delays. As Benjamin Franklin once said, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. We always keep that in mind. And at the end of the day, by preparing this early on, you will jumpstart your development process and likely save a lot of time and money on additional workshops, scoping sessions, etc. Alright, that will be all for today. Stay tuned for next week's episode where you'll learn all about the different types of outsourcing contracts. If you'd like to talk to me about building your digital product, write me an email at p.markowski@invotech.co. To stay in touch with us, click here to visit our social media profiles like Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn. Thanks for watching and see you next week.